Human beings are by far the smartest animal on planet Earth. So much so that it's easy to forget that we are animals, and we need to exist in balance with the rest of nature. High intelligence is a double-edged sword. While it brings us amazing improvements in our material state of living, it also causes and aggravates illness in all kinds, because of pollution, stress, and our general modern lifestyle. Paradoxically, humankind attempts to cure illness by using the same kind of tools that created it. Modern medical science often treats the body like a complex machine. It's pretty obvious that although complex in a biological sense, it is really not a machine. It isn't possible to try to cure or treat any part of the human body without taking into account many other things, including the emotional and spiritual states of our organism. Incredibly, even though little more than 100 years old, modern medical science pours scorn on traditional methods of curing and treating illness. Methods that have been used over thousands of years in Eastern countries. In certain circumstances, the modern medical way of treating illness is necessary. Very often it is not. So how do we tell the difference? In this course you will learn about the following: how to prevent stroke, details of spinal health, back and neck pain, and why the spine is so important to our overall health. You will learn about cardiovascular health, how to keep your heart and blood supply in tip-top condition so you really don't need modern medicine help. I go through the basics of energy healing, what it is and what it can do for you. And then we look at the causes of and how to stop inflammation in the body. This is the root of many modern illnesses. Whatever your age, this course will give you some tools to cure several serious illnesses that are caused or aggravated by modern living. Sign up now and I'll see you inside. Before we move on to specific subject areas, I'd like to take a few minutes just to move over the differences between traditional medicine and modern medical science. Inevitably, many of the traditional techniques of healing that we reference today come from the Far East, from China and Japan, but by no means all. For example, on the American continent, the Mayan civilizations and the Inca civilizations, to name but two, as well as the American Indian, all developed natural healing techniques. Although the American Indians tended to be more shamanistic, so it was more magical and mysterious, more spiritual than practical. The differences between traditional and modern medicine can be described as follows. In ancient China, a medical practitioner was employed to keep his client healthy. So a man would be paid to administer herbs and advice to a client, and the client would pay a small amount per week or per month, and if the client became ill, he would simply stop paying. So it was in the medical practitioner's interest to keep everyone healthy. In this way, it was proactive. The client or patient would be advised on certain treatments and ways of living so that he can maintain his health by keeping a balanced bodily system. The idea of balance is very important in traditional medicine, and I'll be referring to this again and again throughout the course. In the present day, we try to achieve this balance by eating healthily, taking regular exercise, and trying to reduce bad habits such as smoking and taking in alcohol. In the modern day, medical services are generally reactive, although there are some tests available and we are encouraged to find out if we have some kind of disease before it becomes too serious. But for the most part, people live their normal, unhealthy lives, and then if they become sick, they go to the doctor, hopefully so that he can cure them with some miracle drug or some other kind of treatment. After we become well again, we go back to our normal life, which is actually many times the cause of the illness in the first place. Once we are ill, the damage is done, and we want a doctor to give us a quick fix to make us well again. A doctor will often give a patient a drug or a pill to try and remove some symptoms, help with pain, or reduce inflammation, for example. However, many drugs come with side effects, sometimes that are worse than the sickness. Medical science and the drug culture is part of a multi-billion-dollar business that is designed to manage your illnesses and not to cure them. Sales of prescription drugs in 2016 in the USA alone amounted to some $450 billion. And if you were cured, then the business would fail. In general, the idea, the concept of introducing synthetic compounds, chemical compounds, into a biological system, a complex system such as a human body, is very suspect, and often necessitates further treatments to negate the side effects. The problem is quite severe. In the USA at the moment, over 70% of the population takes a prescription drug. Over 50% take more than 2 prescription drugs. And over 25% take more than 5 prescription drugs. Many of these drugs would simply not be necessary if we maintained a healthier lifestyle and made the right choices, take responsibility for our own health. Traditional medicines, on the other hand, are derived from plants, flowers, herbs and other natural substances. Although profits are made by the purification process, they are nothing like the profits enjoyed by the pharmaceutical companies. Natural remedies can also be self-administered with care and a little research. Generally, they have no side effects. If not effective, they are simply eliminated by the natural processes within the human body. A modern medical maxim may be, if drugs don't work, then cut it out. Obviously, any kind of surgery is a traumatic experience, both physically and emotionally. It is often used as a last resort when all else fails, and often it does not work. For example, many doctors recommend surgery for spinal pain relating to disc compression. Now, the success rate for this kind of operation is around about 25%, or as one orthopedic surgeon stated, it's just about the same as flipping a coin. The physical treatments given by traditional practitioners focus on balancing the body's natural energy and use techniques such as acupuncture to relieve pain and to heal. Modern medicine attempts to define the human body as a complex system, much like a very complex machine. The ancients realized that we are much more than this. What we call a human being is actually a combination of a physical component, an emotional component, and a spiritual component. Each of these must be taken into account when treating the body. The concept is expressed by the term body-mind and indicates that ancient traditions take into account the whole human being. It's a holistic approach, not to treat one part of the body separate from the others. In this paradigm, disease and illness are called by imbalance, an imbalance in the body's energy system. If this energy system is in balance, in perfect equilibrium, there is no disease. If there is existing sickness, then rebalancing the body's energy systems will allow a human being to fight and heal itself. Throughout this introductory video, I've mentioned balance several times. This idea is absolutely vital to the idea of human health, and I'll be referring back to it again and again throughout the course. In later videos, I'll revisit again the idea of a human being as an energy system and how we can become balanced using natural means. In the next video, I'm going to talk about modern medication. The contents of this course are based on my own experiences, and although this lecture concerns cardiovascular issues, and particularly stroke, and the drugs used to control it, the same paradigm applies to many other conditions as well. I believe that this medical process of prescribing drugs for symptoms when the underlying causes are not really known or understood is quite prevalent, and it's not just limited to incidents of stroke or cardiovascular issues. Many times such conditions can be controlled and prevented by natural therapies. A stroke can occur at almost any time of life, with various degrees of severity. The most common cause is a blockage of a tiny blood vessel in the brain, which could be in any area. The size of the blood clot dictates the size of the blood vessel it blocks, and also the severity of the resulting condition, because a larger clot will starve a bigger number of brain cells of oxygen than a smaller one, thereby affecting more of the cerebral functioning. A minor stroke gives rise to minor symptoms, such as slurred speech or loss of control of the facial muscles, but even so, these should not be ignored. More severe symptoms include paralysis of one side of the body, depending on which side of the brain is affected, and complete paralysis. The most severe, of course, is death. Although this course is about natural therapies and remedies, if you develop stroke symptoms, you should of course go to hospital immediately. However, how you handle this condition and your overall health after stabilization is a matter of choice, and natural therapies may be the way forward to prevent further illness. It is often said that a minor stroke is a warning of a bigger one to come, and the statistics are not very comforting. People who survived a stroke were 5 times more likely to die between 4 weeks and 1 year after the first stroke. These people were 2 times more likely to die after more than a year had passed when compared to the general population. You can see that the risk of death in the following years after an initial stroke is quite high. It's essential that preventive measures should be taken during this period. It's obvious from the statistics that prevention of a second stroke is absolutely vital to your health. Years ago, it was often advised to take a quarter of a children's aspirin, because aspirin is a natural blood thinner. In this way, we could keep clots from forming in the bloodstream. Modern practice is to recommend and prescribe drugs for thinning the blood. These drugs are prescribed for various conditions where there is a danger of blood clotting, after heart operations, for example, or for stroke prevention. Many patients are told, as I was, that I must take this drug every day for life if I'm to remain healthy. However, These drugs inevitably affect bodily functions in various ways, and some of the side effects, some of the common side effects, are severe. After checking out the side effects of the particular drug that I was prescribed, after a little research, I found that in the USA alone there were over 5,000 legal cases against the biggest manufacturer of the drug. It's well known that other drugs are prescribed in order to control the first drug's side effects. A completely insane situation, I'm sure you'll agree. In case of the common stroke control medication I was given, the side effects are listed as internal bleeding, bruising, constipation, and nausea, possibly needing secondary drugs to control their occurrence. Further investigation reveals uncomfortable facts and figures about the prescription drug industry in general and the type of business model in force. For every dollar spent on drug development, 19 is spent on marketing and promotion. This cost is recovered from the end users, the customers, the end users of a very lucrative business, you and I. It seems to be quite a dilemma. Of course, we want to prevent a stroke because it's a terrible event that has a devastating effect on your health. It's distressing for you and your family. So what can we do? We don't want to put chemicals inside our body because it's completely unnatural. Nor do we want to line the pockets of someone who has a very profitable medical business. Feeling that there must be a natural solution to this problem, I started my research with 3 basic criteria. It must be natural. Second, it must be available and not too expensive. And thirdly, there must be absolutely no side effects. After some days, I discovered the answer, an enzyme marketed under the name of nattokinase. It's well known that generally there's a low incidence of cardiovascular disease in Japan, and it's largely attributed to the diet. One researcher took it upon himself to find a natural enzyme that actively dissolves blood clots, and found that a common breakfast food in rural parts of the country was rich in such an enzyme. Natto beans, unfortunately, have a very particular taste, disagreeable to the Western palate. And so an enzyme was developed and refined and produced in powder form, which is enclosed in capsules. Under tests, the enzyme was found to dissolve blood clots in around 6 hours. Additionally, when the enzyme is present in the bloodstream, clots cannot form. Complete protection is afforded for about 6 to 8 hours. And so if you're prone to blood clotting, you'll need 3 capsules a day. The important thing is that after extensive trials, absolutely no side effects have been found. This discovery of mine was instrumental in causing me to look at natural therapies and remedies for all kinds of conditions, particularly conditions that I was prone to. The goal was to live naturally and minimize reliance on modern medical science. Of course, hospitals and doctors have their place. If I break my leg, I want to go to hospital immediately. In the next video, I'll show you how I control high blood pressure. High blood pressure is another condition that is common, has many causes, which is sometimes difficult to pin down or determine. Like most health issues, several factors often combine to cause the condition. Such factors include high salt intake or sensitivity, a genetic predisposition, or loss of arterial elasticity, or a combination of all of these. These factors are aggravated by lack of exercise and obesity. If you smoke and drink as well, then the situation becomes even worse. It's often called a silent killer because often there are no symptoms. But a consistently high blood pressure can lead to all kinds of serious complications, such as stroke or heart attack. It's very important to keep track of your own blood pressure. This is easily done at home with an inexpensive electronic tester. Simply fit the cuff over the upper arm, press the button and relax. The readout will deliver your results in about a minute. But what do these numbers mean? The greater number is called the systolic pressure, which is when the heart muscle is contracting, and the smaller number is the diastolic, when the heart expands and the pressure is at its lowest. The heart is relaxing between beats. Blood pressure varies throughout the day, but the norm is between 120 and 129 for the systolic and less than 80 for diastolic. Blood pressure spikes can occur, and they do occur. They can be caused by a traumatic event or something that you ate, and generally they're not too important. They're the reaction of your system to an external stimulus. However, constant high blood pressure is a killer. Although it's often said that there can be no symptoms, in my view there are always symptoms if your body is out of balance. It's just that we're not sensitive to them. If your blood pressure is very high and constant, you certainly will have symptoms, sometimes quite severe. Symptoms listed on most medical websites include nausea, dizziness, slurred speech, shortness of breath, and headache. However, the majority of sufferers have no symptoms at all. Detection is crucial, given that almost 50% of the population in the West have high pressure. 60% of all strokes are caused by it, and 50% of all heart attacks. In my experience, there are symptoms, even if they're very subtle. The symptoms may manifest themselves as simply a feeling of not feeling too well, something that you can't really put your finger on, but you're not 100%. The symptoms could include irritableness, or anger for no reason, or you feel tired and you cannot understand why. Maybe your thought is a little bit slow, when usually your thoughts are quite quick. As with medication prescribed for stroke and many other conditions, blood pressure medication comes with side effects. These side effects can be severe. Common types of medication expand the blood vessels. The arterial walls become more flexible so that the blood can push them aside, thereby reducing the pressure and the work that the heart has to do. The side effects associated with these kinds of drugs are nausea, dizziness, headaches, severe stomach upset, and constipation. Secondary drugs are often needed to control the effects and the conditions created by the first one. What I'm presenting to you today is not a replacement for medical help or treatment. If you are taking any kind of drug to stop high blood pressure or any other condition, don't stop it. Don't stop it immediately without medical supervision. You certainly can control these conditions using natural remedies, but it needs to be done in a controlled way, in a responsible way. If taking no medication, then you can simply follow this process. Step 1. You need to take your blood pressure at regular intervals throughout the day so that you know what your base level is. This should be done when you're resting, and your pressure is relatively stable. Take the pressure at 1 hour intervals over a period of 3 days. You can sit or lay to take your blood pressure as long as the upper arm is at the same level as your heart. Keep still, without speaking, and breathe normally. After a few minutes, place your awareness in various parts of your body. Does your head feel normal? Are your thoughts clear? Is there a slight headache or a feeling of fuzziness? The joints of your body, do they ache or do they feel completely normal? Is your stomach relaxed, gurgling, making any noises at all? Does it feel a little nauseous or uncomfortable? Or does it feel completely okay? With this awareness moving around your body, just become aware of what your body feels like when your blood pressure is normal. Be aware of your breathing. Is it tight? Is it easy? Does your chest rise easily? Do your lungs expand? During the 3 days, when you're testing your blood pressure every hour, you may identify a period of the day when your blood pressure at its highest. If it's quite high, and if it's more than 135/80, you should feel a definite difference in the way that your body feels. Try to identify this high blood pressure period in the day and go through the same process, placing your awareness in various parts of your body and try to feel the differences. What are you aware of? Once you detect these differences between a relatively normal low blood pressure and a higher blood pressure, you're ready to start using biofeedback to control your own blood pressure. When you feel that your blood pressure is high, or the tester indicates that it is high, simply lay flat and start to deep breathe. As you breathe, try to control your thoughts a little. This is very difficult. In normal life, a normal human being has thoughts that are racing around at 1,000 miles an hour. Try to bring your thoughts back to the various parts of your body to incorporate them into your new awareness. As you breathe deeply, after a few minutes, make the same test and you should see a slight reduction in your blood pressure. If you're already taking medication, then the process becomes a little bit more difficult, simply because medication is abnormally controlling your blood pressure. It is artificially making it a normal level. In this case, reduce the dosage of a medication very slowly and use biofeedback to monitor the effect on your pressure. As should be the case with any kind of medication, when looking for alternative natural herbal or food remedies to help you with blood pressure, it's best to look for clinical trials. Now, normally we associate clinical trials with the drug company, the drug industry, but trials are being made on natural foods and remedies all the time. The two that I recommend to control blood pressure are hibiscus tea and beetroot juice. Both of these supplements have several clinical trials showing that they have a definite and a positive effect on high blood pressure. A study was made of hibiscus tea versus captopril, which is a common high blood pressure treatment. You can find the results of this study in the resources. 4 separate clinical trials came to the same conclusions. Hibiscus tea reduces systolic blood pressure by 10% and diastolic by 12% in a matter of weeks. Interestingly, one study compared the results with captopril, a commonly prescribed drug, and found little significant difference in the results. Given that captopril side effects include the usual suspects of stomach disorders, diarrhea, dizziness, headaches, and others, the choice seems obvious. Take 1 large cup for breakfast, or if you prefer, supplements are available in capsule form at your pharmacist. Root vegetables, and beetroot in particular, are rich in nitrates. The body converts these nitrates into nitric oxide, which has the effect of softening the arterial walls, thereby allowing them to expand more when blood passes through them and reducing the pressure. Trials have concluded that a regimen of beetroot juice can reduce blood pressure by 4 to 10 points in a matter of hours. It's worth noting that a 5-point reduction in blood pressure reduces the risk of stroke by 14% and heart attack by 9%. Other simple dietary changes can have a massive impact on your blood pressure, particularly if they're combined with reducing alcohol and tobacco. For example, a diet rich in extra virgin olive oil can reduce the rate of cardiovascular illness by 30%. Another little-known physical practice that is very easy to do is called grounding. Grounding is a great way to normalize blood pressure, and I'll present this in the next video. Like everything else in the universe, the body is actually an energy field. It's a system of energy flows. The ancient health practices developed in the East, in China and Japan over the centuries focus on balancing the energy flows around the human body. Energy can flow freely or it can stagnate. Where there is an imbalance, then illness is the result. The practices that we're going to discuss aim to balance out the energy flows around the body so that illness disappears. Such practices are holistic in that they impact the body, the emotions, and the mind. This idea is not as strange as many Western doctors would have us believe. If we drill down into the atomic structure of all material things, we find, well, nothing. The basis of all that exists is quantum, or a packet of energy, vibrating so fast that everything seems solid. It makes sense to view our bodies as a more denser form of the energy that surrounds us, but it is still us. Our energy extends away from our bodies, becoming weaker and weaker, but it never really ends. Any energy system must maintain a stable state to exist, and the human body is no exception. Ancient Eastern cultures identified certain channels or meridians where the life force, which is sometimes called chi or ki, flows. Pressure on certain parts of these channels can accelerate flow, removing blockages, or slow the energy down where there is an overabundance due to blockages elsewhere. The result is improvement of overall health. If the approach uses needles to stimulate the energy points, the practice is called acupuncture. If the fingers are used, it's called acupressure or shiatsu. All natural remedies aim to restore the body's balance. An energy balancing in the form of shiatsu or acupuncture can aid the body in unforeseen ways. Although people do seek out shiatsu and acupuncture treatment for particular problems, the practice tends to affect the whole of the body. One effect of this holistic approach to balancing the body's energy field is that bad habits tend to fall away. If you have a tendency to drink and smoke too much, and in my opinion, any drinking and smoking is too much for perfect health, regular sessions of energy balancing will help to reduce these or even stop them. It really doesn't take willpower to remove these kind of habits when you undergo energy balancing. Because the body starts to be more in balance, it intuitively realizes that these things that you take into your body, such as alcohol and tobacco, are really not necessary and not required. These habits tend to fall away naturally because the body simply doesn't need them anymore. Over the last 2 or 3 centuries, our culture and civilization has pushed us more and more into a lifestyle that is not of benefit to our health. It's easy to point the finger at the usual suspects, such as pollution, lack of exercise, a sedentary lifestyle, poor nutrition, and smoking and alcohol, and several other factors. But I suspect that one of the major causes of many of our illnesses is due to the fact that we are separated from Mother Earth. For thousands of years we walked barefoot on the earth, almost in constant contact with it. Even the first footwear was made from animal skins, which transferred moisture, but modern footwear with rubber soles effectively insulates us from the ground. Why is this important? Apart from the intuitive feeling that we should be closer to Mother Earth, there are very good reasons why we should maintain contact, physical contact with the ground and our planet. All domestic and commercial electrical systems use an external grounding rod designed to protect the human body from shock. In this example, the metal case of a heater is connected to Earth through the electrical wiring system. If the case becomes live due to a fault inside the device, electricity will flow to Earth instead of through the body of anyone touching the case. This is because the planet has a huge capacity to absorb electric charge and reduces them to the same potential. This is why lightning is drawn down to the ground. The effects of connecting the human body to Earth has been proven to hold great benefits for health. Such benefits include reducing stress and enhancing the body's autoimmune system, making us less susceptible to illness. 2 very important effects are reduction in inflammation, a cause of disease, and improvements in blood flow velocity. Blood viscosity is largely governed by the zeta potential of the surface of the cells, which is a measure of negative charge. When the negative charge is elevated, blood cells repel each other and they slip past each other, thus making them flow more easily. One effect of this is that the heart doesn't need to work so hard, so there are added cardiovascular benefits. When the cells have insufficient zeta potential or negative charge, they tend to stick together in clumps, which encourages clotting. Blood flows more slowly and the heart has to work harder. The blood pressure tends to be higher and there is a danger of stroke. So the planet Earth itself is rich in electrically negatively charged electrons. When we connect to this vast bank of electrons, the effect is to reduce the strain on our hearts. It improves blood flow and it reduces the risk of heart attack and stroke. Even 30 minutes a day walking on a beach or in moist grass is sufficient to improve blood flow. But obviously, when we talk about grounding, more is better. Grounding also improves and regulates sleep patterns. so the night is a great time to get grounded. There are several commercial products available to ground your body, whether in the daytime or the nighttime, and these range from sleeping mats to other devices that strap or clip onto your body. These tend to be expensive, and I prefer to use an electrical technician's earthing strap, which simply attaches to the wrist or the ankle, performs the same function, and it costs just $2 or $3. They're very cheap and portable. Simply clip the crocodile onto the earthing connection of any domestic electrical outlet or a metal spike driven into the earth, and you're good to go. It's particularly useful if walking barefoot is difficult. For example, you can keep it in your pocket and clip it on while in a cafe, in an airport, or any other public place. You can also buy grounding shoes that connect you to the earth while you walk. If you take this option, bear in mind that you will only be grounded if you walk on earth, concrete, grass, or tile. Tarmac and other bitumen-based coverings will not allow the contact with the earth that you need. Regular grounding also reduces inflammation in the body. Inflammation is considered to be the cause of many modern ailments, including some forms of cancer. Whichever way you look at it, grounding your body, connecting it to Mother Earth makes complete sense. It should become a part of your daily routine.